Well, you're raising the dead or shooting for the stars. Well, you can't go wrong with a Pottymouth guitar.
Welcome back to Pottymouth Guitars. You're looking at Earl Pottymouth Arbuckle. And yeah, I've got this big old mask around my face right now because I'm fixing to do some sealing, and I've got some pretty toxic stuff I'm going to be working with. So I want to be safe and good to myself, you know, survived cancer twice. I don't want to spit in Superman's face. You know what I mean? So, so hopefully this mask will remind me to keep my comments at least a little bit brief as we lead into this. And this will be a little briefer in terms of jibber jabber because I'm going to put this mask on and I don't know if you're going to be able to hear much at all what I say. And I figured that the headphone thing probably isn't going to fit and probably wouldn't help. So we've got two microphones, this one and this one. I'm not going to have the headphone mic, so you won't hear me mumble and grumble. But yeah, my lungs are a bit of a priority given I use them to sing. So we've got a two-part project. I'm sure you recognize the purple Strat, the Potty Blaster that I've been working on that needs a sealer. And I learned that because I did not use a sealer and tried to put an epoxy clear coat on the back of this, and the wood aspirated so many bubbles because I had not sealed the wood. The consequence of not sealing the wood was that those pores, the wood pores, are open, and the wood is able to breathe out, and it did up until the epoxy started to harden. So there was a whole bunch of bubbles trapped in there. I tried to do stuff to eliminate the bubbles, which ended up hardening the epoxy. I used a heat gun and just left it on the surface way too long. Kept passing over quickly, but didn't let the epoxy cool down between my passes. So I ended up just cooking the epoxy onto the guitar, and it looked pretty awful. I think I have a video of the first part of that, and it's kind of a mess. But at any rate, I've sanded all that epoxy off, got it down to the bare wood, and then, in the meantime, I had found this wonderful stain. It's a wood stain, but it has glitter infused in it, and it's very, very fine glitter. It's really nice, and it's perfect for this particular guitar. You'll see glitter on this guitar, but that glitter is really flashy, and the pieces of glitter are pretty large in this. It looks kind of jewel encrusted almost, that kind of effect, whereas this is more of just sort of a subtle shimmer, which works really beautifully with the figuring on the front of this guitar. So I'm super excited to put a clear coat on this and get the nice complement between the two sides once I get those finishes all blended together. So, and as I've been working on this guitar, I've been doing a little bit on my other guitar, the Potty Caster. This is the Potty Blaster, this is the Potty Caster. And I've been building this guitar for myself, and super excited about finishing it, and just done all sorts of work on this finish. I can't even tell you how many times I finished and resanded and finished and resanded and finished and resanded, and then dug all the silver glitter and shined all the pink stain that had seeped into the silver parts all the time I spent erasing that silver, or the pink, out of the silver. Very time consuming, but extremely worth it, because boy does it look beautiful. So it's now time to seal that in, because the wonderful, the magical Stacy Shea Williams is purchasing this guitar. So like I said, I was building it for myself. I went on Stacy Shea's streaming show called The Hash with Stacy Shea, and back in October, we talked for a good 3 hours. It was wonderful, or 2 hours, I'm sorry, and I played a little bit of music, and then I told her about the guitars I've been building, and I showed her these two guitars. Actually, I picked this purple one up and showed the front, and she said, "Oh my God, I want to buy that guitar," and that got me all excited. So I showed her the other one, and she looked at this guitar and said to me, "Oh my God, my daughter's name is Paisley. You have to sell me that guitar." So the Paisley guitar has been purchased by Stacy Shea Williams, and so since I'm doing it for her, I asked her about whether she wanted some different things, if her vision of this guitar was a little different than mine, and it turns out that it is. She wants a very standard, very basically as close to an original Telecaster style guitar as possible. And the Telecaster is every guitarist's choice. Every professional guitarist has a Telecaster in their arsenal, and for good reason. They're just an incredibly versatile and ingenious instrument. So she wanted a more standard style string through bridge, standard passive magnetic pickups. I was going to put a pair of active pickups in there. I was going to put a Bigsby tremolo on here. It's going to be a whole lot of hardware and a whole lot of expensive stuff that I was putting on here. And so we took all that hardware out of the picture, since I'm going to go ahead and use it on another guitar, since I'm going to be building myself a Telecaster with all this schwanky stuff on it. And so I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Use that equipment on another guitar, and so I needed to drill the 6 paths through this guitar for the string through design of the bridge, and the 4 holes that I needed to set the bridge. So I needed to make sure that those were in just the perfect place, and I needed the holes drilled for the neck to make sure that this neck is aligned with the body and the bridge. So I went and talked to my good friend Chip Tate, who I know from working at the Paramount Theater. And Chip is a bit of a luthier himself, has a beautiful shop in his basement, and he invited me over. And he also had a Telecaster template. I don't have a template for this guitar since I wanted to buy, I wanted to get it with the laser engraved paisley. So I purchased that from Walla Walla Guitar Company, which is a great guitar company in Walla Walla, Washington. And but luckily enough, I used Chip's front and back template for the string through and the bridge attachment screw holes, and just basically aligned it by feel, and miraculously we drilled from both sides with this drill press, because it's hard to drill a long hole, especially if you're trying to make it super straight, because as Chip explained it to me, the drill bit will actually follow the path of least resistance, even if that path kind of curves a bit. So, and especially with a hardwood like ash that has some variation in the hardness, you know, the darker the darker part of the wood grain and the lighter part of the wood grain are different densities. So that drill bit can do a little bit of wiggling, and basically it can bind up in the body and actually snap off or do all sorts of nasty things. So to avoid that, you have to drill from both sides, and miraculously I managed to position those two templates on the front and back of this guitar and align them perfectly enough that the holes just met right up right in the middle. Because yeah, the outside there was this guitar body is a little bit bigger than that template by just 1/8 of an inch, pretty much all the way around, and I just sort of felt and just anyway, quit bragging about myself and my magical feely fingers. My finging fingers, they fing very well. They do. My fingers. But anyway, so since Stacy is going to be getting this guitar, I needed to drill those holes. I got those set. Did that over at Chip's place. And now this gets me to the stage where I need to start clear coating. So, because we've got all the electronics, we've got the finish done, we've got the neck. I went ahead and filed the frets on the neck. There was a little bit of fret sprout on the sides of the neck. So I didn't want Stacy to be cutting her fingers on this guitar. So yeah, we're ready to clear coat, and this guitar, we're going to go ahead and put the sealer on here, because we're not going to do epoxy on this one like we are on this one. We're going to do a standard, well actually we got it right here. We're going to do this clear gloss top coat. The epoxy, I think, was going to end up setting way too thick on this body, and epoxy tends, when it ages, to yellow, and I could only see that as this guitar aged, an epoxy finish would probably end up yellowing. And yeah, since this since the laser etching basically digs into the wood, there's some portions of this surface that would end up being super thick epoxy. So to try to get as thin a wood finish on here, a nice thin and tough wood finish, the best bet is going to be a top coat, just a regular top coat. And this is a water-based guitar finish, and I'm excited to use this. And this will preserve the sort of texture of the guitar as well. This epoxy, if I put an epoxy, it would have ended up being just smooth on top, and I kind of I like the idea of preserving the texture of this guitar, so when you touch it, it's going to have a feel to it. So anyway, but both guitars are going to need to clear a sealer coat for different reasons. Now that water coat, I'm not sure how it was going to interact with especially this silver. The silver is a wax-based, it's basically a grain filler, but it's not a grain filler in the sense of like something to fill grain for taking a varnish or something like that, but rather this is an accent grain filler, so it fills grain in order to accent the grain. And you can especially see that on the other side of the guitar. See how I worked that silver into the grain of this ash on the back to put it in contrast with this pink, especially evident right here. That silver just accentuates the grain. So, and this, the silver, accentuates the pattern of the paisley, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So, but since it's wax, I had a very good reason to worry of whether or not the water-based top coat was going to adhere to a wax style, and especially since there are portions where there's large areas, and relatively speaking, large areas of this top that have just the silver wood filler, and those I would imagine there might be problems with the water-based top coat beating away from that and ending up leaving gaps. But also, I don't think we're going to have a problem with the water-based gloss finish, the top coat, but there are times when a varnish style, or a varnish, the not the sealer but the top coat, the properties of the top coat sometimes will either fade, change, wash out the colors, or bleed them into the coat itself. So I don't want this pink like bleeding up into the lacquer, and I especially don't want the silver bleeding up into the top coat and creating like a cloudy effect or something like that. It would end up looking dirty and messy. So we're going to go ahead and seal this, like literally seal it so that we can top coat. And for this one, yeah, we're sealing partially for the color. I imagine epoxy wouldn't bleed this up into it, but I don't know. But I do know for sure that if I don't seal this guitar, then I'm going to just have that same bubble problem every time I try to put a clear coat of epoxy on this. So I'm going to stave that problem off by sealing the wood. And I'm glad to have learned from the experience and don't want to ever repeat it because sanding all that epoxy off, whew, it took a while. So, anyway, let's do this without further ado. I think, actually, I'm going to disappear for just a second and grab myself a sponge brush. I was going to use this, but then, oh, here we go. Thought better of it because, oh, this has stain in it. Because it's just too wide. So I've got a whole bag of these foam guys. Feeling I'm gonna run out of the medium-sized ones before I run out of anything else in there. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and maybe see if I can try to talk as I do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and open this stuff up and mix it up a little bit more. I've mixed it a little, pre-mixed it some, and then put the top on top of it just to keep the evaporation down to a minimum while I'm yabbering. And I'm going to go ahead and top coat these. I don't think it's going to take us too long. And we'll see if you can hear me at all. You see my bald head here for a second. I hope it doesn't shock anybody. I bet you imagine that I had all kinds of hair under that hat.
I have to thank my dad for this mask. I inherited it from him when he passed on, and I wouldn't have one otherwise. And given the fact that he died of lung cancer, mesothelioma, it highlights especially the importance of safeguarding my breathing apparatus, because his breathing apparatus got doused with asbestos and radiation when he was in the Navy, and then asbestos again while he was fixing brakes as a mechanic. So my dad had a whole lot of exposure to some pretty horrible chemicals and substances, and ended up losing his life because of it. He was healthy as hell otherwise. He lived a good life. He was 83, and or 81, sorry. And could have lived a good lot longer had the Navy not betrayed him like that. He was involved in the whole Bikini Islands nuclear testing stuff, and they exposed them to so much high doses of radiation, it was insane. But anyway, you can't sue the Navy. And all those records are redacted. So we'll find out about that, I guess, after you can't sue the Navy or something. But I understand the military, it's necessary that the military put our soldiers' lives at risk, but I do object to the thought of putting soldiers' lives at risk unnecessarily and recklessly, like they were when they were doing all those early reckless nuclear tests before they had started paying attention to how toxic it is, or acknowledging how it was, and respecting that fact. So, I'm going to go ahead and kind of load this brush up a little bit. And get some of this out of the All right, here we go. This is going on pretty nice. And I sure love the effect it's giving us with the opening up that purple. Ooh boy, this is I might have to use a regular brush. Yeah, this is basically just eating this foam brush for dinner. Okay, well, I'm going to load this thing. Okay, wow. Yeah, that was intense. Let's try this. So the pores of the wood should be soaking this stuff up, and ideally I'll only have to put 2 coats on this, and those 2 coats will fill up any pores in the grain. So that the epoxy or the wood will not aspirate air into the epoxy again. And we don't have to worry about making this coat pretty, or the sealer coats in general don't have to be pretty, as long as they're not cloudy or dirty. Want to get debris in it, anything that's going to foul the finish. Okay. Stacia Shea's guitar. Yeah, see? This die is a lot more bleed to it. So, I'm glad we are sealing this, because I would hate this pink to bleed up into the clear coat and cloud it. So, we're avoiding that fate, which is good. Don't need that happening. And we're trying to preserve this color. Looks like we bled a little tiny bit of dye into the silver. Use a Q-tip to soften up a little bit of that. Seems to be working pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and swab out these pooled pink, a little bit of pooled pink dye in here and there. Oh boy, okay, this is turning out great. Okay, I was a little worried about that there for a bit. But no, there's plenty of that silver showing through. And there's the tool we need. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's been a quiet little bit. And you've been probably staring at my crotch for a bit, but sorry. This is the difference between a custom finished guitar and some guitar that somebody paints. You know, there's some pretty creative paint jobs you can do, but I have done this exact procedure every time I've put down a coat of pink and sanded it back, which is many, many, many. I think I've picked the pink out of the silver crannies of this paisley at least 6 times, if not more. I'm being conservative in my estimate, because I don't want to overstate it either. But yeah, I've done this many, many, many times. And it's worth it every time, because it always looks just that much better every time I do it. And I love how it's looking with the clear coat, the sealer on it. It's giving me an idea of what the clear coat, what difference the clear coat's going to make in the pink silver contrast. Because as I've worked on this, start feeling like the pink is getting dull, and so is the silver. Maybe I'm just tired of looking at it. But right now, it looks a lot more vibrant than it has before in a good long time. And yeah, it's looking like I got most of that pink out of the silver. But yeah, you get a guitar from Mexico, you know, Fender Mexico or something like that, you can guarantee that nobody has gone through the body 7 times with a toothpick and a Q-tip shining the metallic paint portions of the guitar. That's why Stacy Shea is getting a great deal on this guitar, because it's a heck of a lot less than you would pay for something like a Fender Custom Shop with a specialty paint job, which they still wouldn't do all of this business with. There would be no way they would actually make a finish this labor intensive, because basically they'd have to charge thousands and thousands of dollars for it. More than just $2,500, which is what they pay for even just a standard American Professional. Just a plain old monochrome finish on it. But anyhow, we're getting to the end here. And yeah, it's feeling sealed, it's dry. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do another coat. Hell with it. Might as well get the second coat done right away. This brush is a pain. Okay, yeah, this should have hardened more. Oh well, I'm not going to do this one. Because, yeah, this is obviously dissolving the only partially dried coat underneath as I'm applying this one. Being a very sticky situation, so I'm going to put a fairly heavy coat on here just to get it covered, uniform. There's a reason they tell you to wait an hour. They're not just screwing with your head. All right. Okay. I'm going to sign off. We got fumes for days over here, so I don't want to perpetuate that. Don't want to take my mask off to sign off, but I will say that I signed up for, I re-enrolled for the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians today. Thank you to the wonderful women who helped me on the phone, Sonia and Karen. It was a lovely moment. I actually got emotional. But I tend to get emotional when you're talking to people who saved your life. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and quit abusing the top of that guitar and the back of that guitar. And thank the Austin Health Alliance for Austin Musicians for everything that they do for musicians here in Central Texas. And they've now ensured that I'll have health care for health insurance for another year. And I can't tell you how grateful I am. So I'm going to protect my health by doing things like wearing this mask, because you're investing in me, and that means a lot. Because otherwise I'm the kind of dumbass that would not wear this thing if I was 16. Because that's kind of dumbass that I was when I was that age. So anyway, God bless. Thank you for watching. Hello, Stacy Shea Williams. I'll be talking to you soon. And I'm going to sign off here at Pottymouth Guitars. I'm going to get out of this room and let the air move through here, and I'm going to get in somewhere where there isn't any fumes.
Well, you're raising the dead or shooting for the stars. Well, you can't go wrong with a Pottymouth guitar.